All right. Here we go. Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Brothers-in-law. I'm Mike Bradley with my co-host up here, Corey Taylor. I hope everybody is doing well. What's good, Corey?
Oh, not a whole lot, man. Just blessed to be alive and on this side of the dirt.
All right. So we got a pretty good show lined up. A lot of stuff going on in the news and a lot of things going on. We want to talk about a couple of incidents today. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe to this video so we can get that out there. If you got comments to make, feel free to join us and feel free to add any comments that you might have. We love to answer your questions. We love a good discussion about any particular incident that we're talking about. And today, I know everybody's is heard about the Columbus shooting where some officers were going into an apartment complex, end up shooting a kid that was in the bedroom. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to try to also touch a little bit on the New Year's Eve shooting. It was, remember, where the guy was out popping off rounds with his AR-15 in the air, and the officers responded to that area and ended up shooting and killing him. For that, we're going to talk a little bit about that too. So thanks for joining us, Stacy. I see you. Tone, I see you. You know, I hope other people join us. We get a little bit more time here. They usually start rolling in a little bit, but we got a good one lined up for you today. What you say, Corey?
Yeah, it's definitely a sad situation as always, but the outcome of this is that we learn something from this. We build and we grow and we move forward. And hoping that we get something out of this and talking about the acronym of CALM that Mike and I preach about every week on our shows in relation to these videos that we produce. And CALM stands for comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. And does that apply in this situation? We'll take a look at that and see. Keep in mind, this is a very lengthy video. It's about 23 minutes. I'm probably going to skip it to the main start of it, but just a brief overview of it. This happened back on August 30th in Columbus, Ohio. Police officers are going to serve a warrant for 20-year-old Donovan Lewis for, I think, weapons charges and some other offenses that he had. And so we'll break that down, and as usual, we'll go through it. We'll make our stops through the video and talk about things that we see as important that you all should know, that you can take back and share with your family and friends, and kind of give you a different perspective why this happened the way it did. And as usual, you know, you're going to hear Mike and I's opinions on it, whether you agree with us or disagree with us. You're going to know where two former law enforcement officers stand in a situation like this, who have gone out and served warrants on individuals and have had to enter homes. But, you know, so we're hoping you get some value out of this. Make sure you comment below and hit that like button for us, and definitely share this out. But it's a good one. You know, a lot of things going on, a lot of tension is happening. And so, you know, we gotta woosah and calm ourselves down and not overreact. And that goes as well as police officers and the citizens. We both have a role to play in these types of things. You get yourself, you live in the life of a criminal. These are the types of certain things you're gonna have to deal with if you're gonna be in live the life of a criminal. Your life expectancy is day to day, whether it's your interaction with law enforcement or you dealing with the streets. So you know, you don't want to put yourself in these types of situations. Bottom line.
True. And the other side of that coin is we also want to make sure you law-abiding citizens. There's a lot of questions that law-abiding citizens have of why officers do some of the things they do, or they'll take a particular situation and are not looking at it through the eyes of a police officer. You know what I'm saying? they are looking at it through the eyes of themselves, a citizen, who has no real insight knowledge of why cops do some of the things they do. So
Right.
we also want to make sure that we clear things up from our perspective to you guys, to give you an idea and let you know, well, this is why we think this happened, or this is why we didn't think this happened. You know what I'm saying? At
Right.
least that'll give you some idea. Hey, what's up, Tim? We see you, TSW1. Thanks for joining us. We starting to come in. Tone, you guys make sure you make some comments now. We want to hear what you got to say throughout all this.
Yeah.
Corey, like you said, like Corey was saying, this is a pretty long video. But we gonna cut it down a little bit shorter, but just set it up, Corey. These officers were getting ready to serve a warrant, an arrest warrant, not a search warrant, an arrest warrant, to an individual in this particular apartment. So they were there for a while. They end up pulling a couple of people out of the apartment and detaining them, and are in the process of trying to locate the actual person in the apartment for whom the arrest warrant is for.
Correct. So, I'm going to start it probably around I think it's 6-minute mark.
Okay.
But actually, now the 2 minute and 30 seconds. But going up to this point, the biggest problem I have, and forgive me, like I said, we're trying to cut this short. So, but if you want to watch the whole thing after this over, if I don't do it tonight, definitely tomorrow. I'll put the full length video down in the description below. You can take a look at it at your leisure. But one of the biggest problems I have from the start of this is their whole tactical way of how they made their approach up to this apartment. It's late at night. I want to say it was around 1-2 o'clock in the morning. I think, Mike. I'm not 100%, but It was late at night. These guys were already asleep. And it was really the lack of communication. Normally, when we went to go on these type of things, we had a little brief. We got together, say everybody knew their role, who was doing what, and it didn't seem like
Taylor, I see you.
they didn't have. Hey, Mom, they didn't have what we would call a mission brief, right? Everybody has a role because as they make their approach up to the door. One of the guys say, "Hey, who's going around back?" "Oh, I'll go around back." "Well, who's doing this? Who's?" Nobody knew what their role was going into. And when you go on in to do this, especially serving a warrant, you want to have a tactical plan, because these things can go south in a heartbeat. And if you just got people not in their role, then people are going to get hurt and get killed. And so I had a problem with that from the jump before they even got to the door.
I hear what you're saying. I can definitely see why you'd have a problem with that. They did seem a little lackadaisical, for lack of better words, in preparing of how to search this. I also understand, cops, they serve warrants a lot. You know what I'm saying? Particularly depending on which area you're in, you may serve warrants all day. You might be part of a warrant service team. I understand that there are times where you might appear to the average citizen a little too relaxed, as long as when it's time to knock on that door and that door opens, it's time for business. And Corey, I agree with you. I'm with you on that. You need to have a tactical. Go ahead.
Right. I'm there with you 100%, Mike. But I'm saying, even up to that point, it was not. I'm looking. Where's your game face? Where's your head on the swivel?
Where's your game face? I hear what you're saying.
It wasn't, hey, it's time to go to work. I get it, because see, one thing citizens got to understand, serving warrants like this. I mean, I always had the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because you always hear of ambushes. Before the cops even gets up to the door, one gets shot in the head, or so.
Especially when you're making an entry into a room with a closed door. You know what I'm saying?
With a closed door. right? You don't know what's behind that door or who's behind that door. And so for me, that was, and then, based on my military experience and how we did things, that to me, it didn't seem like they were prepared to go and do this.
They didn't have the gang faith on.
Right. That's all I'm saying. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. Right. And like I said, I'm starting to right as they get up to the door. And then that's another problem too, the when they get up to the door and you're here right now.
I would go watch that one window just in case. So I would watch that one window.
Now, if something was to happen, that guy right there ain't even ready to do nothing. Listen to that knock.
Not until I know they're inside.
You're D.
Now he wants to identify.
He's trying to act like he's not the police so that maybe they'll be more apt to open the door for him.
Right.
You're D.
Initially.
Yeah, it was a very light knock.
And they're out here for a long time knocking on this door before anybody ever comes to the door.
Let me see. Now, the knocking is killing me.
Apartment H, come to the door. It's Columbus Police.
Okay, there you go. Identify yourself.
Come to the door.
Knock on the door.
Right. He should have done that from the beginning, though, Mike.
I hear you.
Come to the door.
You see me? You see me?
Hey, come to the door.
Yeah, go do that.
Apartment H. Open the door. I can hear you inside. Come to the door. Hurry up.
All right. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit, y'all, for time's sake here.
That's cool.
Because they're just trying to get them to the door.
Tell Dorsey to turn the car off if they can't hear.
Hands up.
So now they finally open the door. This is the first guy.
Huh?
Now they were out there for a long time knocking on that door and yelling.
Yeah.
On the back. Okay, don't move. Don't move. Well, stop moving. Stop moving. Okay. You're just being detained real quick, okay? Yeah. Who else is in here? How many people? Okay, relax. Stop pulling away from me. Another guy on the couch.
Normal stuff right here, folks. Detaining everybody inside until we get to the one we need to get to. Safety reasons. We want to make sure they ain't attacking nobody or nothing like that. It's normal to handcuff everybody. Doesn't mean you're under arrest.
Who? How are you then? Okay. Why you stand for me? Who else is in the apartment?
Have a seat real quick. I got you. Have a seat. Where's the knife?
Huh?
I got knives on this one. It's right there, but it's protection. Oh, yeah.
Have a seat. Have a seat. Now, we'll have him hold that.
Is there anybody else in the apartment?
Well, we're going to send the dog in here in a second, so if he doesn't come out.
So there's someone else in the apartment. Cool.
Closet to the
You don't know if somebody's
Okay,
in
you
or
know
not.
who's in the apartment that you're in. He's gonna get bit by a dog. So if he's in there, tell
Columbus
him.
Police, you're inside. Make yourself known. Do it now.
I don't know who's in the apartment that you're
He
in.
was asleep.
We're gonna send the canine in a second.
That's ridiculous. You know who's in your apartment.
Right, TSW. That must like a buddy of his at the door. I mean, but you're going to detain and safe, make everybody safe when you come across them while you're in there. Handcuffing, searching, make sure anybody got weapons on them. Normal stuff right there.
It's not gonna bite you.
I can't tell if it's just a closet to
Oh,
They're saying nobody. Columbus.
the canine unit. You're inside. You'll stand on the house in this dog. Come on out. Come out now.
Now those walls don't seem to be that thick. Somebody should have heard that
No.
dog. Should have heard them on the other side like that.
Yeah, and it's not a big apartment.
Hands,
No.
hands. Yeah, there's somebody back there. That dog's gonna bite you if you don't come out.
So the dog alert on that door. So the dog is letting it know there's somebody back there in that room.
Right. Now pause this for a sec. Okay, folks. So up to this point, again, me and Corey are giving this to you. I'm going to tell you what would be in my mind right now if I'm one of these officers getting ready to do this. So I'm already a little amped up because I got two people out that was in the apartment. The dog already hit on that closed door of a bedroom or whatever kind of room that is. You see what I'm saying? So I'm already kind of on edge because there's a closed door and I'm thinking, why didn't anybody come out of that room? Didn't anybody hear us? They didn't hear the dog. They didn't hear us yelling and screaming. There could be somebody on the other side of that door ready to blast me. That's what I'm thinking as an officer. So I'm ready and prepared for that if that's the case. You see what I'm saying? I'm on edge. Yes, I'm on edge. You know what I'm saying? You got your guns drawn. You're getting ready to serve an arrest warrant on a guy. Part of that warrant was mishandling firearms along with domestic violence. Okay. So I'm thinking of all these things about this could be a big incident right here, right at this moment with that door closed and I'm coming up with. What do you say, Corey?
Well, yeah, because again, those are some of the red flags that we always talk about. Okay, and I agree with you. I mean, this is a very small apartment, as you'll see here in a second. You can't tell me that. Again, okay, if you're in a deep sleep, right? Are you going to hear the dog bark? I don't know how deep of a sleeper this young man was, but a dog like that right outside your door should wake you up. And you know, and you give some type of response, but if you're just in there and thinking you're just gonna, you know, isolate yourself in there, then you know, it's the unknown that now awaits you because you don't know what's behind that door. Now you got to go in there. So yeah, you're definitely going to be on edge.
Right.
100%.
Right. You might have to make a split-second decision to shoot or not shoot. It's very possible. I'm just being real with everybody. As an officer, I'm thinking along those lines. I might have to shoot somebody. I hope not, but I might have to. Or maybe I don't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know why this guy ain't opening the door. I know someone's in there. I don't know what this guy is prepared to do. I don't know if he knows he's getting ready to be arrested. I don't know if he's getting ready to fight or anything. Whatever it is, we don't know.
You don't
that's why officers are on edge. If I'm approaching this door, I'm up here. You know what I'm saying? I'm not down here. I'm up here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, emotionally with my gun drawn, but my finger is not on the trigger. My finger is what we say, Corey. Your finger is your safety.
Yeah.
Finger's not on the trigger, but it is close by.
It
if
is
I need
close.
it. Okay.
All right, we're gonna keep it moving, y'all.
Could be intoxicated. That's right, Tim. He could be. Never know. That's right.
He's got
He could be passed out on the bed intoxicated. That's possible.
Right, Frank. It's not like it's a chihuahua barking, right?
Yeah, it's like, why don't he hear this dog? Why don't he hear, what is, which makes you even higher? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Hey, Meg.
Nah.
Hey, Megan.
Now, I'm gonna stop it right here, Mike.
All right. Well, that happens pretty quick.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. That it happened that quick. All right, I'm gonna back it up real quick here. And I'm gonna tell you what I have a problem with.
Okay.
Now, situations I've been in before, K9 unit is not going to be your number one guy right now. He's not going to be your number one point man, if you will. All right. He ought to be off to the left. And the guy that's got his hand on the back should be your point man going in. Reason being is so he can pop that door, and the guy, that dog handler, can now let that dog in if need be. Now, Mike and I had a discussion before the show. A lot of K9 officers, situations like that, don't want to risk their dog's life going into a room of the unknown, right? And may not. But again, it's time to, you need to get that door open. You need to be able to see the dog assess, or the handler assess who's inside there. If they can or cannot make that determination, then, obviously send the dog in. But the handler, Mike, in my opinion, should never have been trying to handle his dog and make the entry into the room.
I agree. The dog should not be, the handler should not be doing both. Should not
Correct.
be responsible for entry and the dog with deadly force. Shouldn't be responsible for all of that. Right. I agree. There should have been someone separate to open that door. Now, right. You can open the door, step back, and make an announcement, come out, or let me see your hands, or respond, or I'm going to send this dog in. And the reason why we was having that discussion earlier about some K9 officers not wanting to send their dogs in, the reason that is because some K9 officers will tell you that it's because in a situation where you know that there is someone in there, they're not going to willingly and knowingly send their dog into a situation where the dog is likely to get shot or attacked. So the guy's in there, so use something else to go in there. I don't know if this department has shields. Some departments have shields, handheld shields that you can make entry into rooms with. I don't know if they had that readily available here. If they do, you could have done that, use that. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, in this situation, unfortunately, that's what they did. You got the K9 officer doing all of this, making entry, controlling the dog, trying to do three things at the same time. I don't think that's a good idea.
That definitely was, because you right there, if you look at the screen now, you see the guy with his hand on the back, and then you got the other officer to the right just standing there. And again, he is in no defensive posture. Who knows, somebody's not in that closed door right in front of him. I mean, I think he already opened it and looked, but he didn't check it. That could have been buried behind some clothes inside there and jump out there and shoot. It's just the whole tactic things was off for me in this one. This is why you have the incident that happened. The heads were not on the swivel, like you said, Mike. They could have had a ballistic shield to go in there when you're going into the serve a weapon, especially that the subject has a lengthy criminal history with firearms, dealing with firearms. you know, again, it goes back to, like we said at the very beginning of the show, they weren't tactically prepared. It was just, you know, nobody knowing who was a job.
And I agree with Frank. It seems like they kind of rushed the situation. Yeah, I agree with you. They probably did rush it a little bit with the K9 officer trying to do too many things at the same time. They didn't break that down enough.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Nobody knew their roles, right?
Right. Yeah.
The K9 handler, his job is
do what.
Right. And the K9 handler, that's
froze up on my end, Corey. I hope everybody can still with us a little bit. Corey froze up, but I don't know if Corey, if you talking or something, send me a message, do a comment. Sorry, folks, some technical difficulties. But anyway, I think they did kind of rush this a little bit. Frank, give me shoot me a message real quick if you hear me. Make sure it ain't on my end because I'm not frozen up on my screen. Okay, Corey froze up. You do see me still talking and hear me, right, Tim? TSW. Just want to make sure I'm still on. Let me know, folks. Okay, I'm good. All right. We got cut out. Wait for Corey to come back in on a minute. But anyway, on this video here, you know, I think they kind of rushed it a little bit. Now we can always sit here Monday morning quarterback, you know what I'm saying, and say that it's easy to sit here and say you shoulda, coulda, woulda done this, done that, but that's not what happened. Now when they opened the door, the guy on the other side, whatever he was doing, had his hands out to his sides. Personally, I couldn't see anything in his hands based on this video. Would I have shot under that circumstances? Well, you're asking me to make a decision. Would I have made that kind of decision in that split second, in that particular moment? That's kind of hard to answer. But looking at this video from my perspective, if I was that officer and I'm seeing what I'm seeing right there, I don't think I would have shot that quick. You know, I would have had to be convinced a little bit more to see some kind of deadly threat. You know, like you said, Tim, this person could have been intoxicated. It could have been passed out, but he wasn't. You know what I'm saying? He got up, he made some motion. I couldn't see anything in his hands. I don't know what this officer saw in his hands or if this officer even meant to shoot. When you look at the video, it almost seems like it might have been an accidental discharge. Where the guy was trying to do too many things at the same time, control his dog, look at the person on the bed, perceive whether or not it is a threat, and then he pulled the trigger. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it was intentional. I tend to think it almost looked like it was accidental. You know what I'm saying? An accidental discharge. So if that's the case, nonetheless, it's negligent. You know what I'm saying? I think it was something that could have been avoided. Easy for me to sit here and say that in the comforts of my own home. You know what I'm saying? And Frank, you're right. There is a protocol for lead man before entry. And it just doesn't seem like these officers kind of laid that out before this moment. That's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? You guys give me some comments. Corey might take a minute. Tim, you say agree it happened so quickly. Doesn't even look like he aimed his weapon. Yeah, it did happen so quickly. He just had his weapon pointed in that direction, and it looked like the round just popped off, you know, like he pulled the trigger because he saw something on the bed. You know what I'm saying? But he was trying to control his dog at the same time. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to do too many things at once and perhaps accidentally pulled the trigger or misperceived the threat. You know what I'm saying? Personally, I didn't see anything. They keep saying that there was a vape pen or something in his hand. I didn't see that. I can't see that clearly on the video. And it's hard for me to say what this officer saw that made him shoot or if in fact it was an accidental discharge. You know what I'm saying? What you let me know what you guys think about the possibility of an accidental discharge if you fire weapons and stuff like that before. It happens so fast. You know what I'm saying? It might have just been an accident. I don't know. I didn't see any threat. I didn't see the kind of threat that I feel would have made me shoot at that particular moment. You know what I'm saying? Frank, you make a good point. Frank says the handler was up against the wall too. Dog on the left and left hand and on the wall at the right. Small bump could have led to discharge. That's true. That's true, Frank. You know what I'm saying? When you try to do two things at the same time, a lot can happen. A lot of mistakes can happen if you ain't clear on what you're doing and you're trying to control two things at once while trying to perceive a threat. That's a lot to handle. It was a quick shot, Tim. From the beginning, they looked a little disorganized. Yeah. Now, I will say, like Corey was saying, when you're doing a search warrant or arrest warrant, whatever kind of warrant it is, you obviously want to have some tactical plan. Matter of fact, I would like to get that on my body cam that we're going over a plan of how to do this. When we serve search warrants or arrest warrants, we all, had a period where A, B, C, and D knew what they were doing. You know what I'm saying? I knew what side of the building I was going to be on. I knew what I was covering. The partner next to me knew what he was doing, where he was going to be, and what he was looking for. We already had somebody designated to actually open the door or breach the door. We already had somebody designated who was going to call out commands to the suspect. We already had somebody designated who was going to handcuff, who was going to take control of the suspect. Arrest and control team. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there should always be a plan. And these guys, either they didn't show that on the video or they might have been a little bit too relaxed. But, in the beginning, if you serve warrants a lot, you might sound and seem like you are not, you might come across as a little too relaxed sometimes because you do it so often, which can be a danger to officers by becoming lackadaisical, thinking that, this is the same old stuff all the time. And you start to think that ain't nothing going to happen or something, and you are less prepared. You got to be careful doing that. So it looks like Corey got disconnected here, and I'm not sure if Corey is going to be able to make it back on. But if he does, we can go ahead and finish that video back on and see what it does. Let me see what time it is. We in here for 33 minutes. Here comes Corey right now. You back on, Corey?
Yeah. There's I got to fix this echo. How do I get this? I got to fix this.
We got Corey back, folks.
All right. Yeah, there's an outage in our area for the internet. So
okay.
it happened because, like I said, we live in a new construction area. So sometimes these guys out here working, they always mess up the lines and gets us cut off. But yeah, where we at?
I was talking about how when they made the entrance and how that shot occurred, whether it was an accidental discharge, whether the guy intended to shoot up in the air. We tend to think it was an accidental discharge because of the way it happened. He was trying to do too much, try to control the dog, perceive a threat at the same time. Anything could have happened or it might have just been a plain mistake of him perceiving something that wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? Tim makes a good question. Is it typical for cops to serve the warrants, or is there a warrant team? Yeah, cops serve warrants. When we say a team, Tim, I mean just a team within a department. Some departments actually have officers designated to just serve warrants. Like that's all they do in their shift is serve warrants. Not every department.
Usually it's the sheriff's department that will serve the warrants, depending on the locality.
Yeah, depending on location. Now in our city, we served warrants. You know, we didn't call anybody outside. We might have called other agencies to assist us, depending on what kind of warrant it was. But a lot of times, patrol officers were the ones serving these warrants. For instance, the beginning of the shift, we had a warrant book. We go look at that book to see if anybody had warrants in our individual districts, and we coordinate with the other patrol officers on our shift and go serve the warrant. You know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily all the time a designated team to do it, although in some departments it is a designated team to do it. But they're all law enforcement officers, obviously. We don't typically call another agency to do it.
No, and if it depends on the type of warrant. If it's a high vis search warrant, then for us it would be like our tactical team would go do, which basically is our equivalent of a SWAT team, will go and serve that warrant. But if it's not, if it's something that, you know, we could go do, then even so, you're not going by yourself, and then you're always still going to do a briefing before you go. Again, that back to the beginning, that is my biggest problem. Nobody knew their role. Everybody's got to have a designated role. When you go into a situation like that, you go in, it's going to room clean. Everybody has to have their assignment. And it didn't seem as though that going in here, nobody knew their role. And when the officer shot, the canine officer shot, and I know you probably already talked about it, but I'm just going to give my little 2 cents of what I believe probably happened. Wasn't intentional? No. Did he want to shoot and kill this guy? No. However, if you listen to how the shot rang off and his actions afterward, to me, it was what we call an ND, negligent discharge, right? Your finger should not have been on the trigger, but it was. And again, that goes back to the problem with him being the number one guy, the entry guy, and trying to handle the dog and handle his service weapon at the same time. He should not have done it. Now, it's wrong. No way, there's no sugarcoating this. He was wrong, and he ought to be held accountable. So it's just a matter of which murder charges he's going to get. Is he going to get murder? No. Is he probably going to get like a manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter charge? Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty confident he'll probably get one of those two. And then
so basically, if he misperceived a threat and intentionally shot, or if it was a negligent discharge, either way, he was wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Either way, he was wrong. There's no excuse. Right. There's no excuse whether it was the fact of the matter is, I mean, you can look at wasn't intentional. I mean, you can, by the shot and his actions, what was said afterwards, you can clearly tell it was not intentional. Now, like Mike and I talked before the show, this kind of has the similarities of what happened in the Dante Wright incident up in Minnesota last year? Yeah, last year. Okay. You know, she didn't mean to do it.
In that situation, she had a firearm instead of a taser, and unlike this officer, that's the only difference is that he obviously had his firearm. He knew he had his firearm.
He obviously had his firearm, but it wasn't a blatant like I'm going busting in and I'm just gonna start firing and shooting and kill you. Now, again, we'll link the video down in the description after the show, and you'll also see a lot of people have a problem with the after fact of the shooting, trying to still get him to show his hands and you know, still putting him in handcuffs. What are your thoughts on that? Once an individual is shot, why do officers typically have to go back and still handcuff that individual?
That's a very common question from a lot of citizens, which is standard protocol to handcuff the suspects, because you are not a doctor. You don't know if this person is completely incapacitated. You don't know if this person is able to grab a gun or grab the gun again or pull something else out his waistband. You don't know. You can't get into the practice of assuming that after you shoot someone, that's it. You, as an officer, you can't get into that practice. That's a bad practice to get into. So that's why officers train to continue the process of the suspect. ultimately, your ultimate goal is to arrest the suspect or detain the suspect or whatever physically you're going to do. You know what I'm saying? So even after you shoot them, you still need to go and handcuff them and make sure they are safe. And then obviously do first aid. You know what I'm saying? If you see they're shot, you know that they need immediate medical attention. You're going to do your first aid right there. Tone makes a good question. I'm going to let you tell. Oh, okay. I see. Well, let's hit Tim's first since you got it up there. Then let's hit Tone's.
All right.
Tim says, what makes that shooting crazy too, with it potentially being a negligible discharge, that round could have hit a fellow officer. Sure. Very possible. You know what I'm saying? And Tone says, I'm going to let you tackle that one, Corey, because I know you had something to say about that.
Yeah, he says, being a layman of law enforcement knowledge, why didn't they send the dog in first? Well, that goes back to what we said a few minutes ago, Tone. Typically, when you have the subject in the room, barricade in the room, and not wanting to come out, canine officers typically look at their dogs. That's their partner. Do I want to send my partner in there to go get shot? Right? And go into the unknown. Now, I get that, and I totally respect that. My shift partner was a canine handler, and then sometimes we've gotten to situation. I was like, "Hey man, you want to send your dog in?" He's like, "No, I'm not sending my dog in there. I don't want my dog to get shot." And he'll be quick to tell you. And hey, okay, cool. All right, what's our next game plan? But see, that's the handler's thought process. Other officers and citizens see it differently. We would see it as, hey, well, I'd rather much risk the dog's life than an officer's life, a human life, right? Canine officers don't see it like that. They see that dog is their human partner. That's their lifeline. And I totally get that and respect that. So, that's one reason, Tom, why a majority of canine officers won't send their dogs in first. Now, there are situations where they will. A situation always dictates. But in this case here, I can see why they didn't. I just wouldn't have had the canine handler being the number one guy and to make the entry. That was just bad in so many ways. Did I answer your question, Tone? Just hit me up in the comments, let me know.
Yeah. This is bad. This is bad all around, whether it was negligent or intentional. I think the perception, if it was intentional, again, I think the perception was wrong. But you know what? That don't even sound right, Corey, rolling off my tongue when I say the perception is wrong. Just because it's my perception don't mean it's going to be your perception. You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
Assuming this is intentional. I'm not talking about an accidental discharge now. If this is intentional, that officer has to be able to articulate why his perception was what it was, if it was intentional. You know what I'm saying? And you might hear some people say, well, what about department policy? Did they violate department policy? Well, folks, one thing we used to always say as officers is we would always say, department policy is a guideline until you don't follow it. Until you do something that it says not to do, it's a guideline. You're not going to see a department policy that says words like, in this event, you should shoot. You ain't going to see a policy like that. You ain't going to see a policy that says, in this scenario, you should pull your gun out. Or in this scenario, you should place handcuffs on an individual. You know what I'm saying? Now, those are things that you train and learn as an officer as you develop your own personal perceptions about things. And it's for you to decide when you think you need to pull your gun out or when you think you need to handcuff someone to detain them for safety reasons, for whatever, or when you think you need to shoot. You know what I'm saying? You always going to have something that's going to there's some perception that is going to always be left up to the officer. That's what I mean to say. Corey, we lost you there. You back?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. That's me. My finger, my hand slipped and I hit the wrong button on my phone.
Okay. But yeah, you always gonna have some perception that's left up to the individual officer. You ain't gonna have a department policy that's gonna tell you when to shoot someone. You see what I'm saying?
Right. So, Mike, real quick, we got a few minutes left. Let's go ahead and switch gears and talk about the New Year's Eve shooting back in Canton, Ohio. Hey, Jesus, love you. Thank you for joining us tonight. They came out yesterday, did a news press conference yesterday afternoon. I think it was around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock Eastern time. And it came out and said that they're not going to charge that officer in that shooting. If you missed that New Year's Eve shooting, I also will link that video in the description below. You can go back and check that video out. I want to say they found him not negligent in that it was what we say, it was a good shoot based on his actions, the actions of the individual that got shot, and the call for service. Okay, Tone, good. I'm glad I answered your question. So again, nobody wins in this situation, Mike. It's still sad all the way around that this guy, I don't know if he's going to still be able to keep his job. I do know that the family is also trying to go after him federally too. So it's not over for the officer.
No. And it's funny, man. I actually kind of got mixed feelings about this because I'm thinking of it in the sense of if it were me. Like we did the show on this already, and we pretty much are saying the same thing. I understand that, but we're looking at it as if I'm in that position. And as you guys remember on that show, both me and Corey had slightly different versions of what we would have done.
Right.
At the same time, I can understand both sides of that equation. I can understand that, well, him popping off 40 plus rounds in the air is an immediate threat because what goes up must come down and those bullets could hit somebody. But on the other side of that coin, I also feel that if it were me, I may not have just blindly shot through that fence, shot this guy like that, because I might not have perceived it as an immediate threat in a sense that, yeah, I know those bullets got to come down somewhere, but I would have felt better being able to make sure this guy knew I was out there for however I could do that. And made sure that he knew, because ultimately the end result, if he did know that the police were out there, the end result would have been a ticket, maybe an arrest, confiscation of his firearms. You know what I'm saying? And then if something happened later where we realized some people had been shot with out of nowhere with some bullets in that particular vicinity, okay, then we could come back on him and pursue more criminal charges on him. But that's two different ways of being able to handle the call. So not necessarily one is right or wrong, or one is better than the other. Well, obviously you could say not shooting would have been better because nobody would be dead, presumably, right? But at the same time, I also can understand the side where it says, when you popping off 40 plus rounds in the air with an AR-15, is that dangerous? Is that lethal? Could that be a lethal threat? Yes, it could be a lethal threat. You know what I'm saying? But you guys remember Corey would have shot. I don't think I would have shot at that particular moment. You know what I'm saying? But that's the perfect example of how you got two different officers presented with the same scenario that have two different ways or perceptions of dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? And in this case, they decided not to charge this officer. He decided to shoot. They decided not to charge him. And I can understand why they decided not to charge him, because he could articulate that, yeah, him firing them weapons, them rounds in the air was a deadly threat. And that's how he perceived it. You know what I'm saying, Corey?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. We did say we would both do two different things, and that's the point of the show. Another point of the show is not only to talk about the acting and calm, but also to give you a different perspective. When you have two reasonable officers, you still will get different results. You know, and everything can be based on what that officer's training was. And there also it would also go to their level of confidence. You know, are they 100% fact? Did he recognize that guy behind that fence is a threat? Could there have been other people outside in their backyards playing with sprinklers and this, that, and this guy is just recklessly shooting all those rounds up into the air like that? Now, you know, could he have announced himself, hey, quit, please, please, please? But you try doing that over an AR shooting off like that. He's not going to hear you, right?
I understand that.
He's not going to hear you. So, again, and I also have to look at too, right? Do you really want to wait? Could you have stopped that? Now, you waited until after the shot's done. Now somebody is dead. You take the threat out first. Now nobody is dead.
I understand what you're saying.
So you see how officer has to make these decisions that quick, folks, and have to be able to justify why he or she made that decision, right? And, you know, we're going to call it like we see it. And the example for tonight's video, yeah, the guy was wrong. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. There's no trying to make an excuse for him. You can say, oh, a lack of training. Could he have more training? I would say,
not
yeah.
Sure, in this way, I'm not sure if training would have done it, because it boils down to his personal perception, assuming it was intentional. If it was an accidental discharge, that's training. What we say? This is your safety right here.
You had that finger on the trigger. This is your safety. And you had it in the wrong spot, right? He didn't have time enough to really assess what was in. It was like, as soon as the door cracked up, and we're talking about tonight, back on tonight's show, y'all. As soon as he cracked that door open, bang, it went off. So again, could have been the dog startled him, because he did have his hand on his left hand on the holding the dog. Could the dog had jumped a certain way, and that triggered him, like, oh shoot, something must be going down, and he shoots, right? Because the dog made a move.
Was surprised at the shot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The other officer wasn't
definitely was surprised.
Was surprised. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. So leave us a comment down below. Again, I'll if I don't do it tonight, when we get our internet back on in a couple hours here, I'll do it. If not, do it first thing in tomorrow afternoon. But leave us a comment below. I'm sorry we had a little interruption in there, but leave us a comment below what you think about tonight's show. What would you have done in this situation? And share this out, like it. And next week we'll be back with another show, another topic. And Mike, you got any final words?
No, everybody be safe, and we always give it to you straight, give it to you like we would perceive it ourselves. You know, however that is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Tone, Stacy, Mrs. Taylor, Tim. Jesus loves you. Appreciate you guys joining us. And we love them comments. Keep them coming.
All right. Y'all be blessed and stay safe out there, and we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
All right. I think we good.
Still live.
Are we?